Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. Just acknowledging knowledge with no scholarships. It's Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. Breaking everything down, tech to politics. It's Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. We don't tell you what you want, we just give you what you need. It's Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. News, brews, and views from these Chi-Town streets. Topic Thunder.
You heard the man, ladies and gentlemen. It is Topic Thunder. My name is Brooks, and that handsome man there is Ben, rocking that Bob Probert jersey, that classic number 24. That, I listen to a lot of Blackhawk podcasts. I'm a huge Blackhawks fan, and for like the 2.1 seasons that guy played here, holy crap! Yes. And if you don't know. We like hockey here. We like sports, but we don't generally talk about that.
The greatest fighter in NHL history, right there.
And it didn't have to be. Could actually play. The man could actually
one time
play.
All-Star.
Yes.
He actually made an All-Star team.
I
scored a goal with Wayne Gretzky on the ice in the All-Star game.
He, I think, actually has, I don't know if it's a 30-goal season, but a 24-goal season or something like that. Like, for a guy you didn't think, I mean, honestly, they just
And he also is world-renowned for doing tremendous amounts of cocaine.
Oh, yes. Yes. One of the reasons he may have been so aggressive and so eager to fight on the ice. But that's a different topic for a different day. But this is Topic Thunder. And welcome in. If you're joining us, you are entering the world's most dangerous chat zone. We call that the Thunderdome. Hello already. Yeah! And the lifeblood, the heartbeat of this show. As Ben and I introduce you and welcome you into the Internet Saloon here, we are going to be pouring you conversation in the form of stories, which you may or may not be aware of. We try to cover some relevant and news and big topics, but also like, hey, this is going on the other side of things.
Yeah, maybe you might want to know about this as well. Yes.
And well, I guess let's just get right to it, Ben. Like without any further ado, like when we usually discuss such adult things here, we like to libate a little bit. Ben does his thing, I do my thing.
Blueberry pomegranate.
And that was the same one last week. I am not drinking the same beer last week. This is actually a beer from the Pollyanna Brewing Company out of Lamont, Illinois, which is right next door to Lockport, Illinois.
Yes.
Which, hey, I'm very familiar with.
Wasn't there a big LWF event that took place in Lamont? Or a regular stop. It was a regular stop.
It was. There were several. There was like a solid 2-year run. Every month that place had at least 600 people. And if you don't believe it, I have video evidence, but it's not for sale.
Yes. Although some people might be poking around wondering if it is.
And good luck with that. Honestly, to be honest with you, if anybody was gonna try to make money on that stuff, it would be us. So, yes. But collective decisions are what they are. Here we are with the Pollyanna Brewing Company. This is the In the Cards. This is a hazy American pale ale, and it's a little on the bitter side. So I think that means it has a little more hop in it. And I don't mind it so much, but I wouldn't.
Cryo laurel hops, to be precise.
That is
double dry hopped with Citra and cryo laurel hops. Sorry.
And this is very dry, so I tell you right now, very dry.
Dry beer. Ugh.
Yeah, this would be good if you had the right maybe food or you were pairing it with something like that. But otherwise, like it's not bad. But
if you haven't drank it before on the show, you have to give us a Brooks Bolt. So out of 5, 5 has never happened, I don't believe, at any point.
I don't
We've had
believe
a 4.5,
either.
I believe. We've had a couple of 4s.
A couple of 4.5s, couple of 4s. This one's going to be in the 2.5.
Yeah,
it's not a terrible
based on what
beer.
you were based on just your energy you were giving off. I didn't see that being above a 3. So
Yeah, this is it's a solid beer, but it's not a go-to beer. Let's put it like that. But yeah, that's not what you came here for. My beer reviews, or maybe you did.
well,
the show's
did.
over for you
I mean,
now. I don't know.
People do love that on some level. It's a tradition.
It is a tradition, and so is the tradition of electing a president every 4 years in this country.
Yes.
And that's a hell of a segue.
We try to keep it pretty consistent. Yes.
And we are in the midst of what would be called an unprecedented election cycle, as of course we've all covered the Biden dropping out, the assumption of the nominee role by Harris, and then the pick of Tim Walz, which
Everybody's favorite
every day,
grandpa.
Every day, Ben. Every day seems more and more like just a home run.
I'm telling you, I'm yet to hear somebody tell me something about that man that's not like, oh, that's just great.
It just what an awesome pick, especially considering his the other side of it, the ticket on the VP side.
Yes, I can't wait. That debate. I'm more and more anticipating that debate as well. That's
October
gonna be a fun
1st, I
one.
believe that will be the first VP debate. I believe they just announced.
So there's actually something surprisingly, Brooks, that the candidates agree on. There's not much, but this seems to be one topic.
This is something that our good friend Tipton Moscow sent to us, and I know you guys were at least at one point very close.
There was a time
very close.
we fractured a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. We don't talk as much as we used to.
Yeah.
But he stays in touch with the show really more than anything. But there are some things that we both agree on, and one of those things is tipping. That has long been, if you have followed me on social media, I have long been on the tipping and the way that we pay people in the food service industry and how outdated and ridiculous the whole thing is. This goes right in line with that, which is the idea that first proposed by Donald Trump, but has been taken up now by Kamala Harris, and it's
quickly.
Yeah, and as this story will tell us, because I've read this same thing. Me and Tipton are on the same wavelength. I read this same article from Politico, and it makes sense to me. Like, why are we taxing tips? We already pay these people, many of them, less than minimum wage. Somehow that's allowed. Right, like this whole thing has been really a scam run on the paying public by the restaurant industry since the Prohibition days. Tipping was not a thing, or I wouldn't say that. It wasn't a thing where it was part of the person's pay, right? That they depended on that portion of it to pay their bills. That did not start until the Prohibition days, when Prohibition, basically when you couldn't serve alcohol, people weren't going to the restaurants as much anymore, right? And so they weren't making as much money, and so they were paying their workers less.
I did not know this, so thank you for
the
education.
There's a great video. I suggest everyone. I've shared it a couple of times on social media, but you can find it on YouTube. Adam Ruins Everything. If you've never seen Adam Conover, he does it's a less than 5-minute clip. He mixes it in with some comedy and some, so it's kind of like Drunk History in a way, if you've ever seen Drunk History, but he's not drunk. He's just giving you history or a topic and telling it to you in a comedic way, so it's easier to kind of absorb and whatnot. But it's a less than 5-minute video where he explains why tipping is outdated, why it should be gone away with, but at the same time also acknowledging that if you do not tip, given the current circumstances, if you do not tip people in the restaurant service industry, you are an asshole. Like, let's just be clear. If you do, because of the way that things are set up, if you do not tip people in the food service industry, you are an asshole. But the idea that they're paying taxes on tips, that to me, I don't understand that, and I'm actually glad to see Harris and Trump, and, in the interest of fairness, right, and being fair and balanced, give flowers when they're due. This is a Trump idea. This is a Trump idea from the beginning. No one really raised this idea until he did on the national political stage. So give him credit where it's due. Now, I will also say this, giving even more credit to Kamala Harris is that she's taking it a step further. And in this article, let me scroll down here. I'm kind of taking the reins here on this one. I apologize, Brooks, but this is one. This is one in my wheelhouse. Tipton knew exactly what he was doing today.
I love it.
So let's see. Bear with me here.
Well, as you're scrolling and looking for that, I'll just kind of...
Here we go. I'm sorry. Okay. So Horsford provided his proposal, which includes both no taxes on tips and elimination of sub-minimum wage, which does not exist in Nevada, but allows tipped workers in some states to be paid as little as $2.13 an hour. The Harris campaign declined to specify whether her calls to raise the minimum wage specifically means force the sub-minimum wage, but she is expected to release more details of her economic platform later this week. That's the big one. So no taxing tips, that sounds no-brainer.
Right.
But the one that you're going to get pushback on is the raising of the sub-minimum wage. And that the idea of a sub-minimum wage, it has always been preposterous, that because they work for tips, they're allowed to be paid a lesser wage.
Well, you assume
never made sense to me.
You assume that they're going to get the
correct, because you're putting it on the paying customer, the expense of your labor. The restaurant industry it's a great scam. No other industry has been able to get away with it. Having the paying customer pay the majority of your labor costs. What other industry has done it?
And then also knowing from good friends that have been in all of these service industries that you're not just, those tips are just for you, right?
A lot of times you're splitting tips.
You've got to split that out from, if let's just say you're a waiter or waitress, you've got to split that out with the busboys. Sometimes you got to split that out with the wait staff, and the kitchen staff. And that tip isn't necessarily dependent on your performance, because you could have done everything right. You could have been the maitre d' of all time to that one table, but if the chef messed up the food, or it was 15 minutes late, now that the mashed potatoes are cold, that's going to reflect on your compensation, which is totally not fair.
It is not.
Absolutely not fair. So the idea that there's a fair living wage being paid across the board, again, percolates up in an election season. And this is a Bernie Sanders thing way back in the day. This was a Green Party thing even way backer in the day, that there's a living wage being paid and you don't have to tip people, which, by the way, is an almost uniquely American thing.
Correct.
Because once you travel outside this country, as I had this little bit of culture shock, they're paid enough, and they will tell you flat out, no, you don't tip here. Like, they could literally be like, yeah, sure,
right,
go for it, but they're like, no, you don't tip,
because they don't want to burden you and your experience, because it is the worst part of going out and eating. Is that weird moment of how much do you tip? Was it worth the tip? If something went wrong, do you like you said, who do you blame? And where does that tip go? And who gets the tip? And are they splitting it, or is it just going to the waitress who did a really great job, or is the chef who fucked up my shit going to get part of this tip? Like, it makes it a weird experience for no reason. All it is that the restaurateurs do not want to pay their workers a livable wage, and they say they can't, right, without raising the prices of the food that they charge for, which, by the way, as a consumer, I would gladly pay more for the food that I was eating and when I went out to eat, if I knew that the people that were working for this restaurant weren't dependent on me to do the work, to tip them. Yeah, and there you go. Chefs do not get tips.
Chef Dave.
Yeah. So even that there's that doesn't even trickle down. The whole thing is fucked off, and it's again all because restaurants are one of, if not the worst business that you can get into. It's something like 80% of restaurants fail in the first year. And then of those 20% that survive, another 10% don't make it through year 2. Like to last in the restaurant industry is nearly impossible. And so many people get into the restaurant industry because like, I can cook good food. I cook good food. People will come and eat it, but it's still a business that you have to run, right? And so many people. I mean, shit. Gordon Ramsay and fucking John Taffer and all these guys, bars and restaurants. If they were easy to run, there wouldn't be television show after television show of expert chefs going in and fixing these places because they're run like complete dog shit.
Which
right?
close 15 months after the show anyway.
There's at least 3 or 4 different shows of like star chefs going in and fixing restaurants because they're so poorly ran. It is a shit industry that needs a complete revamp. But again, if as the consumer I have to pay more for the dinner that I go out for, I'm willing to do that if I know that everyone there is getting paid a livable wage. Livable wage. Everyone.
But that also plays into a lot of the things that we talk about these days too, like inflation and supply chain and the cost of running and supplying a restaurant, right? So I'm not talking about the McDonald's and I'm not talking about the Applebee's of the world, like where it's supremely prepackaged, already super processed. They just warm it up for you. They don't cook it for you. I'm just talking about like the mom and pop, the medium to large, independently owned or small local chain restaurants.
And Dave is pointing out in the chat room exactly that the best restaurant considered in the country or maybe on the planet without alcohol sales would lose money. I mean, it is not a profitable business. Restaurateuring is not something that is so hard to be successful. And I get like as a society, that means we're going to have less options to go out to eat, right? If we demand that restaurants and restaurateurs pay so one of the best restaurants in the world, considered the best restaurant in the world would be a financial failure without alcohol sales. I mean, at some point, we can't. The paying customer cannot continue to subsidize your passion project, and that's because you can't run a business effectively. Because there are restaurants that are successful and do make money and do pay a livable wage to people. There are those out there. It's not like it's every restaurant is this way.
There is a way. Chicago. They just opened their third, I think it's a standalone or delivery place, but it's called Soul and Smoke. It's it's a black owned, woman run barbecue joint with a shop in West Loop and their main headquarters in Evanston. And they announced out front, like that one of the reasons that we bought food from them last year for our Tech Week celebration was that they stopped the whole process of tipping, and they literally told on their website, we are paying our people a livable wage. And you have to then go out, if you're passionate about this, then you have to go out and support businesses that are telling you what they're doing and walking that walk.
Yep, absolutely. Huge point there, absolutely. And so like there are plenty of examples of successes and successful situations where people that are working for these places are being paid. So it is possible. So the pushback, even in this article, when they say that economists say that it's not they push back on it. They don't even really go into much detail on what exactly the pushback is. All it really says is, hold on, I want to use the economists on both the left and the right have panned ending taxes on tips as costly and ill-advised, and hardly anyone took the idea seriously before Trump raised it. And if it becomes the idea is projected in some estimates to cost between $100 billion and $250 billion over a decade.
So 10 to 20 billion
in taxes not collected.
Okay. That we can easily make back, I don't know, if we tax the ultra wealthy.
Right. But just tax in a different way and not tax the middle class and the lower class.
Don't threaten me with a lesser tax bill. Exactly. Sirs, madams.
Again, the pushback is that so less taxes will be collected from people that shouldn't be taxed as much as other people? Like, yeah, okay. Again, don't bust me up with a good time, right? Like,
let's go ahead and tax the $300 billion in profit ExxonMobil made last year. Maybe that one tax bill just makes all of it up and more. Fantastic public transportation in all of our cities.
Just thinking off the top of my head, yeah.
A national rail system that has high-speed rail that alleviates the congestion of the airports and the cost of flying. I'm crazy. I'm a crazy socialist, communist, liberal.
Yeah, okay. Liberal socialist.
I am. And okay, so let's. We were talking about Kamala and how she was able to very quickly, I think the next day, literally pivot and announce and literally like scoop it away from Trump, this whole like no taxes on tipping thing. This is something
good point by Dave. Real quick, one last thing is, if you are going to tip, I'm guilty of this too. It's so easy to just write in on the ticket and just have it on the charge card because I don't carry cash as often. But I personally have to do a better job. But yes, they don't get paid. They don't have to. They don't pay taxes on cash tips because they don't.
Well, that's because they're not reporting it.
Yes.
So that, and I'm fine with that. Let me be
circumvent
very
the
clear
system.
about that.
Yes, yeah.
I'm not one of the. Yeah, I don't. I think that keep your money. Don't keep it.
Yeah.
But back to Harris.
Yes.
And how smart her campaign is. So Ben, you and I brought up how she kind of mishandled. And I don't know if we did this on air, but
it was off air. It was off air between just you and I. Yeah.
The private chat. How you and I both believed that Harris handled some. It wasn't exactly heckling, but it was protesting for some pro-Palestinian groups at one of her rallies, and it was loud enough that she literally addressed it and basically said, "Well, okay, then you want Donald Trump to win, then, don't you?"
Yeah, it was just poorly handled.
It was the natural reaction of like a prosecutor of somebody who's usually on the attack, which we could and we're not saying that's right because I think Ben, you and I both agree it was wrong. It was the wrong way to handle it.
Yes, the tone was wrong, the messaging was wrong. Yeah, it just felt like she was blowing them off and not really paying attention to them.
In a super quick pivot, not only did the campaign hear that criticism, but they changed their approach to this particular criticism.
Which includes respecting the voices that I think that we are hearing from. And let me just say this on topic of what I think I'm hearing over there. Let me just speak to that for a moment, and then I'm going to get back to the business at hand. So let me say, I have been clear. Now is the time to get a ceasefire deal and get the hostage deal done. Now is the time. And the president and I are working around the clock every day to get that ceasefire deal done and bring the hostages home. So I respect your voices, but we are here to now talk about this race in 2024.
I think that was pretty brilliant.
That is how you handle that situation. You know, like this is why she's so good, is in these situations when she got caught off guard a little bit that first time, right?
Sure.
And I think even she would admit that she did not handle it very well.
Clearly.
To at least acknowledge it and at least give a clear, concise position, right? Like there was no ambiguity in where she stands on this, right? Like she made it very clear where she stands. There's like one of the criticisms of Biden is that and a lot of the Biden administration is that they have been very hesitant to say anything that might look or feel like they are against Israel or not in full support of Israel. It felt like a presidential response. I agree with you, Hayden. Like,
absolutely.
That's how you respond to that question and at least acknowledge, because there is a large voter base, particularly in the point that I made to you in our private conversation was that the first time it happened was in Michigan, right. at a rally in Michigan, and Michigan in particular is a very close race. It came down to, I think, less than 10,000 votes or something along those lines last time. And there is a very large Muslim community in Michigan and a very large voting base and a very motivated and organized voting base in Michigan among Muslim community. And they were that's what worried me about Biden as a candidate. It was that they could sit out in protest, and in a state like Michigan, it could be the difference between winning and losing that state, and that state winning and losing could be the matter of winning and losing the election. So this changes things. That changes that narrative a lot for the Democratic Party and for Kamala Harris. Like, I just hope that it's not that she truly believes that, and it's not just lip service. But I would love to see her get in a room with Netanyahu and kind of, you know what I mean, and say, stop the bullshit. Let's figure this the fuck out, because what we can't keep doing is bombing schools and hospitals. They bombed a school last week, Brooks. The Israeli government bombed a fucking school because they had reports that there was a Hamas leader that might be there. Like, it's beyond absurd at this point, and it needs to stop. It has to stop. It needed to stop fucking 3 months ago when we were talking about it. But here we are, and at least now we're acknowledging it.
Again, just the brilliance of this campaign that's actually being run not only by competent people, but by younger people. And if you need any more evidence of that, just check out the way that they're handling this campaign on TikTok. I guess, I read a report that somebody tried to reach out to as many people of the social media department for her campaign, and to a T, all of them graduated in the year 2020.
Really?
Like, you have people who grew up with the internet now, were formed in the TikTok, Snapchat, like quick soundbite, quick like funny noise, quick funny song bit, like tying it to some imagery that generates a message, and they can deliver that in like 20 to 30 seconds.
That's crazy.
Which, okay,
on the opposite end of the spectrum.
We want to be equal opportunity here, right? So we showed one campaign, we're going to show another.
Sure. It may not be all things equal.
This was at the Bozeman rally, the same airport that he
5,
was not.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
People it's live.
11, 12, 13.
People
14,
are back there.
15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. They had to cut away. The man froze.
While he's on pause, while the president's on pause. If that was Joe Biden in that exact same situation
Imagine.
a month ago, they would have blown up everywhere. Jon Stewart, fucking everybody, man. Everybody would have gone fucking nuts.
The so-called
at the idea.
liberal media would have absolutely went berserk. But has anybody else seen this before?
Yeah.
No. This was carried on Fox. And notice how after 21 seconds, the Fox announcers were like, okay, somebody in the ear, producer, who got a phone call from an executive producer, who got a phone call from a VP, who got a phone call from Rupert fucking Murdoch that said, cut the Trump feed. And that's exactly what happened right there. It's worse than the Mitch McConnell thing. Because at least it was announced that like Mitch McConnell had some medical conditions.
Yeah,
Nobody's.
I mean, if he just literally is in mid thought, I guess that we could have gotten a little bit more context to the video. But if he just like paused in the middle of like just like he just spaced out, like what the fuck? Like, I mean, at what point do we start having this conversation in the national media of, is Trump too old? Is he mentally capable? I mean, explain that. Someone fucking explain. 21-second pause out of nowhere. Like, what the fuck is that?
As somebody who now has kind of moved into a situation where I give speeches to rooms of like 20 to 50 to 60 people sometimes, right? I can tell you for certain, and having watched pro wrestling my entire life, I can tell you for 100% that there is a time to be silent and let the crowd do the talking.
Right. Yeah.
You
That's
hit the
not what
hard
that
point.
was. Yeah.
You made this super important. You threw out your catchphrase. Whatever. Right. You countered somebody's like whatever, and you let the crowd. You just kind of let it. You soak it in. Right. But you're looking around and you're acknowledging, like, yeah, I hear you. He literally, in the middle of an already silent moment, just froze.
Yeah.
And if you had, as somebody, again, public speaking, you've lost their spot, right? Oh God, what I just said didn't land. I need to somehow recover. Like, the last thing you should do is be silent. There should always be some sort of backup story or analogy or some kind of like transition.
Joke, a quip, something.
Some joke your dad told at the dinner table 17 times a year, every year for your entire life that you could just fall back on. And I'm talking about the joke of Sam Clam and Fred Frog. That's something you can fall back up on. That's a deep cut. That you can at least reference and fall into. But then, what does that say about this guy who accuses other people of being low energy and low IQ and not so smart, not bright?
Sleepy. Yeah.
Like, I hate dead air.
Yeah, dead air is the worst. That's me too. The former radio, trained person that I am, dead air is the fucking devil.
That's Aunt Chris making a very cute reference to my hatred of Steve Dahl.
Yes,
who got by thinking it was cool, and it was his gimmick that he would just sit there and say, nothing for a few seconds, and it was really edgy and really cool, and it wasn't, because it was awkward. And I would listen, I'd be like, oh my God, I'd be freaking out. I still freak out to this day if I'm listening to AM radio or like the news, and all of a sudden there's an awkward handoff between the weather person and the traffic person, and there's 8 seconds of dead air. I want to turn the channel because I'm embarrassed and panicking for those people.
Right. Yeah, that's the first thing they teach you in radio school. Exactly. I do also want to acknowledge, it's funny that Hayden brings up this point in the world's most dangerous chat room, because before we went on the air, Brooks and I were just banting about, and it was not a topic that we were even going to think we were going to get to, so we started actually talking about it. But yes, Hayden, there is a movement and there is a bubbling starting to happen within the Republican Party and just Republicans that I know and in our area. Like, you just moved back to Lubbock this week. Start looking around at the different at the yards in the area. There are no yard signs. There are. I can't even tell you that I've seen one Trump Vance yard sign anywhere in Lubbock yet. Like, there is, and even I talked about this last week. The Republican people that I know are kind of like, yeah, it's over. This guy's lost. He's lost it. He has nothing. And so I think there is a segment of the Republican Party that is coming around to the idea that, like, we can't vote for this guy. Like, this is absurd. And you start to wonder, and you called it, Brooks, what his base is going to stick with him. Right there, and he has a base that is going to stick with him. We know them where they're all on our timelines, on our favorite Facebook or fucking X.
Xenophobic, misogynistic motherfuckers.
Exactly, but they're out there. The question is, last time there were 80 million people willing to vote for Donald Trump. Is there 80 million people willing to do the same thing now, 4 years later? I think the growing sentiment is starting to become, and the snowball is starting to roll downhill here, that base is probably really more like 20, 30 million people. And if he gets his ass whipped in this election, you said this off the air, and I want to point this out now that we're having the conversation, bring it on the air. The hardcore Trump supporters that we're talking about, the base, the 20 to 30 million people, we have to start convincing them now that there are people in their own party that aren't going to vote for Donald Trump anymore, because they're not going to believe that the results if he gets his ass whipped. They will truly believe that the election was stolen. We'll go through this whole nonsense all over again if he gets his ass. If it's close, there's something to it. You know, you could say that it was a legitimate, but if he gets beat, like just a beat down, they're not going to take it lightly. They're not going to take it laying down.
It's not the base. The base is gonna do what they're gonna do, and yes, it's a very scary section of law enforcement, firefighters. It's very, very scary that some of the like the heat map of Trump support across like employment and demographics, right? I don't think there's no deprogramming these people. There's
not
no
the hardcores.
There's no swaying the base. They are entrenched. They are dug in. They are in fight or flight kind of mode. And
they literally don't care about facts anymore. They literally will tell you they don't care. They peddle in misinformation. They don't care about facts. It's just about narrative.
Can we jump up that?
We sure can.
The mayor, and because this is actually what we need when. And okay, so let's give credit where credit's due to the Never Trumpers who were in 2015. The OG against Trump, and they were leading the charge of the
J.D. Vance was one of those Never Trumpers,
allegedly, right? But J.D. Vance has a long history of like
self-identified. There's video of him identifying himself as a Never Trumper.
What he called Trump Hitler at one point too. So
he did
an American Hitler. So what we actually need are established Republican leaders in Republican voting strongholds to come out publicly and say what the very brave mayor of Mesa, Arizona, who's a Republican in a Republican city, said on the campaign trail.
In a swing state.
Thank you. I am the very proud mayor of Mesa, Arizona, but thank you. But I have to say, I feel maybe a little out of place today. partly because we're in beautiful Glendale. Okay, there's that. But as you may know, I'm a lifelong Republican. All right? Now, I have thank you for your warm response. I have to tell you that I do not recognize my party. It has been the Republican Party has been taken over by extremists that are committed to forcing people in the center of the political spectrum out of the party. So I have something to say to those of us who are in the political middle. You don't owe a damn thing to that political party. In particular, you do not owe anything to a party that is out of touch and is hell-bent on taking our country backward. And by all means, you owe no displaced loyalty to a candidate that is morally and ethically bankrupt. So again, to all of us, I would say, in the spirit of the great Senator John McCain, please, please join me in putting country over party and stopping Donald Trump and protecting the rule of law, protecting our Constitution, and protecting the democracy of this great country. That is why I'm standing with Vice President Harris and Governor Walz.
Yeah, that's a solid endorsement and a solid, like you said, more people like that speaking to Republicans in the middle and not the sycophants of Donald Trump that's. I'm telling you the momentum. This is crazy.
We need that. We need Republican leaders across the board like that are willing to say that, because again, we established the base. You're not going to do it. It's the middle and it's the independent voters, right? That get swept up in the hoopla or have a predisposition to not vote for a woman or African American or a African American woman, or just a Democrat in general, right? That we need people like that, somebody brave enough to come out and say, like, there is now a dichotomy that what I once thought was my party no longer exists, and all that exists now is the empire, right? And Palpatine, and
it's incredible to see and have lived through the last 45 days in this political genre, I guess, for lack of a better term, because it feels like, and put it in sports terms, Brooks, it's like watching a basketball game where one team goes up by like 25, 30 points in the first half, and you're like, wow, they're just gonna fucking run this team off the floor, and then halftime comes. And they get a little, a couple of shots don't fall early in the second half, and then the team that was behind starts getting hot, and all of a sudden the game completely shifts. I mean, the seismic shift in momentum that has happened from one party to another. I sat here downtrodden and was absolutely certain that Donald Trump was going to be our next president if Joe Biden was the candidate. And one single change has completely turned it around in a way that doesn't even seem fathomable. If we didn't live through it, we wouldn't believe it. If we read this in a history book, we'd be like, that seems weird. Like, there's no way it went that quickly. No, in a matter of weeks, not years, not months, weeks, the complete landscape has just completely flipped on its head. It's incredible to have watched happen, and I'm so glad that we do this show every week so that in real time we have been able to react to it and follow along with it, and it's always there on YouTube. You can go back and find all of the old episodes, and it's all there for posterity purposes that we went through this fucking crazy 2024 election cycle.
And just to add on to your sports reference, this being like the team, the basketball team getting their ass handed to them for the first 2 quarters, the first half, right? The one thing you didn't say was the halftime adjustments that the team made to come out in that third quarter and say, okay, so that's how you're playing, then this is how we're going to beat you. And not that that's a perfect analogy, but that is what the Democrats did, right? They made some substitutions at halftime to the starting lineup.
Yeah, they took the starting quarterback out and put in the backup, and all of a sudden the backup is having a great game.
It's the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, P.T. Willis coming off the bench, baby.
So let's give credit where credit's due, which we like to do on the show here. So way back in 2006, you may have heard this line before, but The Simpsons did it, and The Simpsons actually turned out, those writers had to have access to a DeLorean, a time travel machine, a flux capacitor, because
there's a lot of things that it's almost weird how many things that they have got.
Damn. 2006.
Is there audio?
I don't know. It's a GIF, so no.
Oh, got it. So this is legitimately from 2000. Are you sure? Because that does seem like
nope.
Edited.
This is the same episode where Trump was president, and I believe that's when Lisa succeeded Trump. And they literally said after Trump jacked the national debt to $60 trillion or whatever, like Lisa Simpson signs that, blah, blah, blah. Like, they called out a ton of shit. Again, it's really weird.
That's amazing.
It's really weird how the Simpsons have been so prophetic in our national history, going all the way back. So, okay, we know Trump's weird, right?
Right.
Trump is one thing. The immediate orbit around Trump is something else.
Charlie, I can't believe we're going to watch a Charlie Kirk clip. I fucking hate this guy. He's the worst of the worst.
And imagine this, that in this clip of Charlie Kirk, and
he's not even the worst one here.
Curtis Yarvin, Charlie Kirk is the more normal person in this clip. This is somebody who is informing the Project 2025 platform, and somebody who conservative voices like Charlie Kirk listen to for their views and for their history of the world, our government, and just 58 seconds to just take it in yourself.
In order to remedy this sort of great imbalance, or this usurpation of the legislative and judicial branches over the executive branch, which has become the Democratic branch with a small d, and thus has been rendered utterly toothless in the sense that the president himself has power over the government, the only remedy for this wrong is to put the president entirely in charge of the government. And that essentially means that the executive branch, far from being checked and balanced in a way that does not work and has left the executive branch not checked and balanced, but simply hogtied and held hostage, is to render the executive branch completely unilateral. And when I talk about
what the fuck is that nonsense? He just wants to give the president complete and unfettered power? Is that what I'm getting out of that?
It's really hard to discern what that man was saying, because that's like going to a restaurant and ordering the word salad. Because
who is this hippie?
First of all, This guy seems like somebody who works at a butcher shop at grocery stores who can't hold on to a job at the butchery department at grocery stores for some weird reason.
Yeah.
Like, do you want this guy like choosing to cut a meat? This
No.
you're gonna give to your family?
That guy? No. Neither one of these guys, frankly.
And first of all, a bunch of fucking savages get a goddamn spit guard for your microphones. Fucking freaks.
I took
Anyway,
mine off
so-
this week, actually.
Yeah, radio dude over here.
I feel attacked because I took mine off this week. I thought I was getting.
You can't tell because it's black, so it doesn't matter. You can't tell.
Fair.
But like again, those are the people that are informing and convincing some of these hardcore the base people, right?
Yep.
But
Dude,
okay,
Charlie
so
Kirk is one of the worst human beings on planet Earth.
Charlie Kirk, Nick Fuentes, and who's the other guy that I'm?
Charlie Kirk is the epitome of guy who says shit just to get attention. He's willing to say the things that no one else is willing to say because it gets him attention, and he's the worst kind of carny.
Who am I missing? Who's that other? Who's the other guy? There's like the holy trinity of these putzes.
Well, I mean, on a lower level, there's a Ben Shapiro. Like
Ben Shapiro. Okay, those are the three. Those are the
yeah.
big three.
Yeah.
Those are the big three.
Ben
Nick
Shapiro.
Fuentes, this guy,
Nick Kirk is like a Ben Shapiro if Ben Shapiro had no conscience whatsoever. Like Ben Shapiro is willing. There are some lines that Ben Shapiro isn't willing to cross, and like things that he may even believe, but he's not going to put on fucking video. Charlie Kirk gives no fucks about the things that he says will be on fucking video and be held against him at a later time. He does not care. He does not.
The holy trinity of putzes.
Putzes, indeed.
So not to be, I'm a Jesse Ventura mark. And, you know, we recently saw Hulk Hogan appear at the Republican National Convention and do his thing. But here's, you know, a different voice. And if you're a wrestling fan, you probably already know this story. But there was a time when there was an effort to unionize professional wrestling, which is a ginormous effort in and of itself. But, I'll let former governor, Navy SEAL, world champion, tag team champion of the world, NWA superstar, WWF superstar, WCW announcing superstar, Jesse Ventura speak, and actor.
As far as Hogan goes, it doesn't surprise me because when I was in wrestling in the 80s, I tried to unionize wrestling. And it was Hulk Hogan who cut my legs out from under me. Hulk Hogan went to Vince McMahon, ratted me out, and subsequently later on cost me my job. So it doesn't surprise me to see Hogan with the Republicans because Hogan's as anti-union as you can get. There still is not a union in professional wrestling. The reason I tried to do it, I was in an elevator and ran into Gene Upshaw, the great tackle guard from the Oakland Raiders. Right. And Big Gene raised his finger up and looked at me and says, you boys need to form a union. I tried to do it, and it was Hulk Hogan who ratted me out to Vince McMahon, and subsequently I was fired and lost my job.
Yeah, like the Room Raider, it's not necessarily a great score for Room Raider, but like, yes, you know, the James Adomian, I'm just reminded of the James Adomian spoof video when Ventura was announcing that he was running for president. I think we've watched it on the show before, but it's hilarious. You want to move on to like more serious things?
Sure, like this ABC News story that we've gotten here.
I'm really tired of seeing any kind of ginormous billion-dollar conglomerate buy another billion-dollar conglomerate.
Dude, especially in food.
Especially
there's like 4 companies that own
food.
all the food.
And that's a problem, especially if you understand how economics work and an economic factor called inflation works. When 1 or 2 or 4 companies can legitimately control the costs of products across the board. Oh, but they don't collude, they compete.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that's the great myth is that when there's only 4 of them, it is not a thing that is spoken. Right? It is not. There's no meeting of the 4 heads of the companies that own all the food companies where they get together and recorded down the conversation of them saying we're going to raise prices together and we're going to price gouge.
We're going to compete with these guys.
They don't exchange emails where they're talking about this. Like there's no paper trail. It's just understood that if we control it all, we control it all. Like it is not something that has to be spoken. It's not something you can even prove.
They have these conversations at the Bohemian Grove, Ben.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the conversations don't even happen. That's the best part is they don't need to happen. It's just understood. It's understood that this is the part of being the people that own everything, that you get to control the narrative. And you get to control the prices, and then you raise them up. You get people used to it. You drop them down just a smidge, make them feel better. But then you just keep raising, and you just bring it down a smidge, and then you raise it up, and then you bring it down a smidge, and then you bring it up. I mean, just in the most obvious example of this is in our lifetime alone, and is the price of gas. When I first got my driver's license, I could fill up my tank for under $10. I could fill up my 8-gallon or whatever 10-gallon fucking little fucking car for I think under $10 for an entire tank of gas. You can't get a quarter of a tank of gas at this point for $10. It's the game of raise the price, bring it down just a smidge.
Back it up a little.
And then, so once we get the idea that you're used to it, then we hit you with the next opportunity. And it's not that they just wait for opportunities in the economy or in the world stage to, there's an opportunity, and then boom, we'll jack up the price here, and then we'll bring it down just a little bit, and next time we get it's just a fucking giant scam.
From ABC News, M&M's maker Mars is buying Kellanova, the maker of Cheez-Its and Pop-Tarts, for nearly $30 billion in an effort to broaden its snacking portfolio and expand globally. Kellanova was created last year when Kellogg Company split into 2 companies. Chicago-based Kellanova sells many of the former company's most profitable brands, including Pringles, Eggo, Townhouse, Morningstar Farms, Rice Krispie Treats. It had net sales of more than $13 billion last year and has about 23,000 employees. Mars Incorporated, which if you're a G.I. Joe fan, is a different company, said Wednesday that it will pay $83.50 per share in cash. The company put the total value of the transaction at almost $36 billion, including debt. The deal will give Mars significantly more buying power from suppliers and selling power in negotiations with grocers and other retailers, said Randall Kenworthy, a senior partner specializing in consumer products at the consulting firm West Monroe. Mars and Kellanova combined would control about 8% of the U.S. snack market, compared to the 9% share of PepsiCo that owns Frito-Lay. Kellanova also has a bigger international footprint, which will help Mars expand overseas, Kenworthy said. And Mars has made a lot of improvements in its organizational efficiency that can apply to Kellanova, he said, which means layoffs. Mm-hmm. Strategically, it makes a lot of sense, Kenworthy said. In the biggest deal in the sector since J.M. Smucker bought Hostess for $5.6 billion. Again, $30 billion versus $5.6 billion are amongst the largest of the 2024, behind ExxonMobil's $60 billion acquisition of Pioneer Natural Resources and Capital One Financial's $35 billion acquisition of Discover Financial Services. Again, the theory that it's never good to have money or power concentrated in central one location.
Correct.
Steve Callaghan, Kellanova's CEO, president, and chairman, said Mars approached Kellanova a few months ago to discuss the deal. A few months ago? And you worked it all out that quickly? That seems like it was destined to happen. Callaghan noted that Kellanova posted higher than expected revenue in the last few quarters and reaffirmed its full-year guidance despite challenging economic conditions. I suspect that Mars, watching that momentum, led them to come forward and say, you know, now's the time. We ought to talk to these guys, Callaghan said. So it was really that simple. Was it? Was it that simple? Or was it a situation where, like, well, we like money too much. We don't like human beings as much. So we're going to... I don't know what happened to Keebler Elves, actually. It's a good question.
All I know is that Kellanova, knowing that Kellanova, it makes Cheez-Its and Pop-Tarts, I can say with great certainty that my 5-year-old son contributes a large chunk of their revenue because that's all that boy eats is Cheez-Its and Pop-Tarts.
I love Cheez-Its. I'm not going to lie. Once you start eating one, you can't. Like, that box is gone.
My son will fight you over some Pop-Tarts.
I'm not fighting. I know. Maybe. Just a quick little
They're pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Pop-Tarts are pretty good.
We're going to talk about some hacking. We like to talk about hacking. We're going to kind of...
We do. On all different levels. You know,
levels.
Like really serious levels of hacking and some like funny levels of hacking and somewhere in between. And this lands somewhere in between, I think.
I think so. From our friends at Wired, want to win a bike race? Hack your rival's wireless gear shifters. Please don't, actually. But do update your Shimano Di2 shifters software to prevent a new radio-based form of cycling sabotage.
This is great.
On the heels of the Olympics, professional cycling has, in recent history, been prone to a shocking variety of cheating methods and dirty tricks, performance-enhancing drugs, tacks strewn on race courses, even stealthy motors hidden inside of wheel hubs.
That's amazing.
That's great, right? Now, for those who fail to download the software patch for their gear shifters, yes, bike components now get their software updates. There may be a new hacking saboteur to contend with. At the USINEX workshop on offensive technologies, earlier this week, researchers at UC San Diego and Northeastern University revealed a technique that could allow anyone within a few hundred dollars of hardware to hack Shimano wireless gear shifting systems of the kind used by many of the top cycling teams in the world, including recent events like the Olympics and the Tour de France. Their relatively simple radio attack would allow cheaters or vandals to spoof signals from as far away as 30 feet that trigger a target bike to unexpectedly shift gears or to jam its shifters and lock the bike into the wrong gear.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
The trick would, the researchers say, easily be enough to hamper a rival on a climb or, if timed to a certain intense moment of a race, cause dangerous instability. Quote, the capability is full control of the gears. Imagine you're going uphill on a Tour de France stage and someone shifts your bike from an easy gear to a hard one, you're going to lose time. Or if someone is sprinting in a big chain ring and you move it to the small one, you totally crash that person's bike. And there's as somebody who has recently taken biking back up, if anybody messed with my gears, even if when I hit my gear shifter on accident, I'm like, hey!
Set. No!
Just get to it. Show us what it does. Shitty music. Wow, that's crazy. Huh.
You just don't want that. It's just imagine your car just shifting gears on its own and not the right way.
Yeah, no, on a bike, and it could be super dangerous. Because if you've ever seen a crash at a bike race, if someone at the front crashes, it causes like a catastrophe behind them, like, and really serious injuries. Like falling off of a bike at high speeds is no fun for anyone involved.
None. So Ben, over the weekend here in Chicago, we had the Air and Water Show.
Ah, yes, a staple of Chicago.
The staple of Chicago, world class. We had the F-35, we had C-130s, we had the Blue Angels, we had Blackhawks, we had Apache helicopters. You
could probably watch it from your living room, couldn't you?
The view isn't great, but we could technically go up to the tower and watch. But we're too cool. We did it already. We saw it already. So we just the crowds are just too stupid. Anyway.
Yes, I agree.
The best flyover of the weekend was captured on video.
People clapping. It's great.
In perfect formation.
That's great. Those ducks have no... Are they geese or geese? Those geese are like, what are those people clapping about?
Yeah, like we're just doing our thing.
We're just trying to get to the next body of water.
This is how we fly.
Yeah, we're just doing our normal thing. What's the big deal?
We're flying in perfect formation. How do they know how to do that?
It is weird. It's like
it's exactly why we do it when they fly in formation in squadrons and shit like that.
It's just because birds do it?
There's aerodynamics involved and like drag involved. Like they had figured it out instinctually.
You've never seen a man more excited than Michael Brooks talking about the Air and Water Show.
She's actually like, we'd hear him coming. Like you could hear like the afterburners turn on. So we're sitting in the apartment. You could just hear. And I was like, jets!
Like a small child.
I love that shit. But anyway, yes, that was here, and it was still the best formation. Ben, I don't know if we talked about this, and we certainly haven't talked enough about this, and we're not going to talk enough about this right now. However, if you haven't known, because of all the shit that's been going on in this country, in Ukraine, and now Russia, something very unique has happened. And for the first time since World War II, Russian territory no longer belongs to Russia.
That's crazy. I heard about this.
Ukraine has made a very, and when I say very, surprising counterattack, and has basically taken over almost now 600 square miles of the Kursk state of Russia. I can't stress enough how surprising this was, even to Ukrainian allies. It is very, very difficult to ascertain a lot of intelligence about what's going on over there, but there are as many as 10,000 Ukrainian troops that are basically bursting forth in a northeastern direction, while some of the heaviest fighting of the summer is currently occurring in south and southeastern Ukraine. This has not been met well by Putin, who has lashed out, calling this basically an invasion and calling for the international community to restore law and order. And,
isn't that rich? Isn't that rich coming from him? Although, I mean, honestly, on some level, does he not have a point? Right? Like, if I understand, like, he's the bad guy. But if we're looking in this in terms of black and white, right and wrong, like if it's wrong for one country to invade another and try to take that country over, is it not wrong for another country to do the same, even though they're doing it retaliatorily?
And yes, no, actually no, and because this is war now, so this is what happens, especially when one side was the aggressor. And for over 2 years, Russia has been bombing hospitals and childcare centers and grocery stores and civilian centers. And Ukraine's been begging for help, begging for munitions, begging for the ability to just fight back. Just give us the tools, we'll fight back.
Right.
And here they are. And it's a very interesting maneuver because they are kind of sticking their neck out. But there's, knowing the Ukrainians and what they've shown us, not only since the initial invasion of Crimea in 2014, all the way through their basically revolutionizing warfare with their use of drones, both air and water, that they are nothing but creative, and they disciplined, and they know what they're doing. So for them to do this, and to basically, they are literally taking over towns. They are offering food to Russian citizens, and then taking the Ukrainian flag and replacing the Russian flag in town squares and city centers across this entire swath of land with the Ukrainian flag is amazing. And twofold. One, it's absolutely surprising and unexpected, right? And it weakens Putin.
Sure.
Just almost a year after the Prigozhin almost coup, right? Where Prigozhin and Wagner literally marched on Moscow for a very little bit. And we find out what happened when Prigozhin decided to back off and not finish the job, right?
Yep.
He got on a plane and he didn't necessarily get off in a most comfortable way.
The sub-headline here says it best, I think. The longer the incursion lasts, the harder it is for Russia's president to brush it off as a hiccup in a successful war. Like, it is quickly becoming an unmitigated disaster for Putin. Like, at some and he's the type that's too proud to pull this troops out and end this and admit defeat, right? And that's the problem here, is that him losing. How does this end? Because he's not just going to give up.
This is going on for 2 weeks now, almost 2+ weeks, and within the last few days, have the Russians made some rearrangements to their force structure to move troops into that position. One, Putin has not called up reserves because he knows what that's going to do to his populace. At that point, when you call up the reserve, so far it's been conscription, right? You were you signed up or you were drafted, but the reserves are a different thing, and there aren't much left. The Russians have lost over 500,000 troops in this battle by all accounts. They've lost a third of their tanks in this battle. They are using World War II aged equipment, and literally some of the troops that another situation where the Ukrainians are busting through various towns and settlements in Kursk. Russian troops are not fighting back. They are literally hands up in the air, surrendering.
Because they don't want to die. Yeah.
Because they were basically, they call it the meat grinder. They were shoved out there because they want the Russians, the hierarchy of Russia, want these guys to catch bullets and die of artillery, with the idea that they can starve Ukraine of munitions and have an easier time rolling through. It ain't working out, because within the last 2 weeks, Ukraine also just started flying F-16s, which is a ginormous upgrade in their ability to defend their airspace and provide ground support. So there's a reason for this. Whether this is just another blow at Putin's image and his perceived ability to bring peace and security to Russia, whether they use this as a spearhead to circle then south and encircle Russian troops and obliterate them in a trap, is another consideration. It is something that bears watching, because this, I can't tell you how unexpected this was and how set back not only Russian military is, but their power structure as well. Again, with the idea that every single situation and maneuver like this chips away at Putin's perceived ability to control what's going on.
Yeah.
And the minute that he can't, there are people more powerful than Putin in the Kremlin, and you don't hear their names. And once that they decide that Putin's no longer the guy, Putin's worst fears become realized as he approaches a window.
So he's not the most powerful person in Russia?
He's just the mob boss, right? He's the Tony Soprano, if you want to look at it like that, right?
Uh-huh.
He controls a fiefdom. But Tony Soprano answered to somebody, and there are forces and structures within Russia, yes, that the Kremlin isn't just isn't like the White House, so to speak, where it's like everybody's working towards a common goal, allegedly. The Kremlin is more like kind of like the Roman Senate in a way, in that there are forces competing for power, and they all have their guy, and they're all these fractured former KGB and now like FSB people that it's not as iron-fisted as it appears, especially when Putin's shown repeatedly to be weakened, again, by Prigozhin, because he did. That was the reason Putin had to get rid of Prigozhin. You couldn't allow that type of thing to go unpunished, right?
Right, yeah.
But it cracked some defenses, made some people think again. And now here you probably have a catastrophic military failure in the war that Putin said was going to be a 3-day special military operation is now on its 3rd year.
Womp womp.
Womp womp. And now Ukraine has been refortified because, we covered the defense bill, the spending bill for Ukraine being stalled in Congress and the Senate. Now Ukraine's getting that stuff, right? And now you're seeing what they're doing with it. And again, if we just give them the tools that they need, they'll do what we and the world need done. They'll get rid of Putin, and then let Russia figure it out after that. They aren't the threat that they are with Putin in charge.
That would be something if Ukraine is the reason that Putin gets removed from power in Russia.
It's almost destiny at this point.
It seems like it.
Right? Yeah. Let's blow through a couple of these really quick. Speaking of destiny, folks, they have discovered liquid water in an ocean underneath Mars. This was sent to us by Ryan Hansen. Apparently, geophysicists have discovered a gigantic hidden ocean beneath Mars' surface, and they say it could harbor life. The massive underground reservoir, discovered using seismic data taken by NASA's InSight lander, contains enough liquid to cover the entire planet with a mile of water. However, it's far too deep to access it by any known means. Trapped inside a layer of fractured rock 7 to 13 miles beneath the red planet's outer crust, reaching the water would require drilling operation that has yet to be achieved on Earth. But if humans do access it one day, its discoveries say it's promising to place a search for life. The research was published in the August 12 journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences.
Oh, I bet that's a hell of a read.
Oh, man, that's riveting, right?
Riveting
awake
stuff.
on a plane.
Man.
Pick that one up. So, again, another situation where water is critical to life as we know it, and it is far more plentiful not only in our universe, but in our solar system, for us to just assume arrogantly that we are the only life out there. And if it happens, life happens, like I think we've talked about this, if it happens more than once in this solar system, given the totality and size of the universe itself and the trillions of galaxies out there, life is not unique. Life is not even an accident. Life is just something that happens
Yep.
naturally.
That is.
Everywhere.
That's where I'm at on it. There's no way that you can believe anything otherwise. It's just ignorant.
More science? Okay. Scientists have found that humans age dramatically in 2 bursts. At 44 and then 60.
This is concerning for me because I turned 44 this year.
Wah, wah.
What the fuck?
If you have noticed a sudden accumulation of wrinkles, aches and pains, or general sensation of having grown older almost overnight, there may be a scientific explanation. Research suggests that rather than being a slow and steady process, aging occurs in at least 2 accelerated bursts. The study, which tracked thousands of different molecules in people aged 25 to 70, detected 2 major waves of age-related changes at around the ages of 44 and again at 60. The findings could explain why spikes in certain health issues, including musculoskeletal problems and cardiovascular disease, occur at certain ages. Quote, "We are not just gradually changing over time. There are some really dramatic changes." And this was from Professor Michael Snyder, a geneticist and director for the Center of Genomics and Personalized Medicine at Stanford University and senior author of the study. Quote, "It turns out the mid-40s is a time of dramatic change, as is the early 60s. And that's true no matter what class of molecules you look at." The research tracked 108 volunteers who submitted blood and stool samples.
Yeah, here's my shit.
Skin,
Run
oral, and
through my
nasal
poop.
swabs. Yes, learn from the poop. They do. Skin, oral, and nasal swabs every few months for between 1 and nearly 7 years. Researchers assessed 135,000 different molecules, RNA, proteins, and metabolites, and microbes. The abundance of most molecules and microbes did not shift in gradual, chronological fashion. When the scientists looked for clusters of molecules with the large shifts, they found transformations tended to occur when people were in their mid-40s and early 60s. The mid-40s aging spike was unexpectedly and initially assumed to be a result of perimenopausal changes in women, skewing the results for the whole group. But the data revealed similar shifts were happening in men in their early 40s too. This suggests that while menopause or perimenopause may contribute to changes observed in women in their mid-40s, there are likely other, more significant factors influencing these changes in both men and women. The first wave of changes included molecules linked to cardiovascular disease and the ability to metabolize caffeine, alcohol, and lipids. The second wave of changes included molecules involved in immune regulation, carbohydrate metabolism, and kidney function. Molecules linked to skin and muscle aging changed at both time points. Previous research suggested that a spike in aging may occur again at the age of 78, but the latest study could not confirm because the oldest participants were 75.
Wow. Oops.
Science.
I hit the wrong button.
Understanding how we age.
No. Sorry.
Nope. We got one more. And we actually haven't done a palate cleanse. And I think we need to do a real quick palate cleanse. Was it Monday?
We got through every story this week. This is
Monday
amazing.
was World Elephant Day.
Uh-oh.
And we've covered a lot, and we've shown a lot of stories and clips from the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust in Kenya, which is not only an elephant orphanage and reintegration unit, but they'll take on there's warthogs, there are giraffe, there are rhinos that they take in. And if you are an orphaned animal in Kenya, they will take you in. And this is one of their success stories. This is the story of a elephant named Nazalot, who was hand raised by keeper Benjamin for the first decade of her life. As you might know, elephants can form incredibly intimate bonds, not only with their own kind, but with human beings and other animals too. And she grew to love and absolutely trust Keeper Benjamin with her life, and even more than her life, because after she was released back into the wild, got pregnant, and had her first child, her first baby elephant, Nazelat came back to the orphanage with her firstborn to introduce her to her keeper and friend Benjamin.
Oh my God.
So there's 2 videos here. I want to show you the first one.
I only got one. Hold on.
You have to scroll down from the link, actually.
Ah, gotcha.
I know, I made it tough for you.
There you go.
But they named the baby elephant Nusu. And
I think we've seen this video before.
have we?
I believe so.
Just look how energetic
Yes.
that little...
Yes, we have seen this video before.
Well,
I knew I
okay,
recognized that guy. But it's still worth watching again.
And that guy, they're going to go back out into the wild after this. They literally came from the wild to the back to the sanctuary. She remembered, the mom remembered where the sanctuary was.
Wow.
And they came back to show, like, hey, meet my kid.
Incredible. You know what else is incredible?
I would assume you're going to say the lightning round, and that was right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's the most popular segment, albeit late segment on the show. It's the lightning round. So if you're in the world's most dangerous chat zone, we're relying on you at this point. And if you're new to the show, do us a really quick favor. Go ahead and hit that like button, a subscribe button for whatever medium you're watching. And if you're not new to the show, you're just watching in general, hey, hit the like button. It helps spread the news. And the news is electric, ladies and gentlemen. So with that in mind, no dilly-dally, the rules for the lightning round. I'm going to read 3 headlines. You, the people, are going to vote in the ultimate exercise of democracy and choose what story gets read without the aforementioned dilly or dally. Headline number 1. Man bites snake to death after it attacked him.
Yes. Yeah, turning
It's like
the
man
tables.
bites dog, right?
Yeah. Talk about turning the tables.
Headline number 2. Disney says man can't sue over wife's death because he agreed to Disney Plus terms of service.
That's absurd.
And headline number 3. Man missing for 30 years reappears wearing the same clothes he left in and with no idea what happened to him. A little bit of a different lightning round. There's no poop, fart, or dick jokes.
No, there isn't. No Florida man, no poop stories. And yeah.
And that might have been a lot to take in. So we do you the gracious honor.
I feel like we
reading.
ran Courtney off with all the poop stories, to be honest with you.
Maybe, but I also think it might have been a work thing. But I assume
I hope that's it.
That she still has love for us.
Yeah, oh wow! This is yeah.
It's all right.
The votes are flying in, ladies and gentlemen.
Folks, we're just gonna read them one more time, just so you make sure.
Just because that's what we do, but we know where this is going.
Wow, it's a landslide here. Hang on to your bases. Get what I just did there. Hang on. Headline number 1: Man bites snake to death after it attacked him.
Any other week, that's a contender. Any other week, that's a contender.
And it's a man in India, so it's definitely not Florida man. Headline number 2: Disney says man can't sue over wife's death because he agreed to the Disney Plus terms of service. And the presumptive winner, ladies and gentlemen. Headline number 3: Man missing for 30 years reappears wearing the same clothes he left in and with no idea of what happened to him.
I can say all the chat has gone unanimous. I also got a text from Adrian. She's voting for number 3 as well. We're looking for a couple more. Aunt Chris, we haven't seen a vote from Aunt Chris or Gigi yet. No. Does anyone want to step out of line here and vote for anything other than number 3? Because number 3 is like some unsolved mysteries type shit. There's got to be a Netflix documentary coming out
now
of
or
this guy.
forever hold your peace.
Yeah. At this point, there's no way anything comes up. There's no way we're gonna have enough votes to beat number 3. So let's just get on with it. We're already running late as it is.
We're running late, Ben. I'm going
Hey, Haven's coming. Hold on. What everlasting wop stopper gonna step out of line and go with number 2.
We love the dissension. We love the folks that are able to kind of separate themselves. That's awesome.
I love it. I appreciate someone that's willing to step out of line.
And again, normally on a normal week, that story's in contention too.
Yeah, Disney is a big piece of shit.
Well, we didn't need to. You don't need to hear that from us. Anyway, we do have a winner, and that is you folks. But also, headline number 3: a man missing for 30 years reappears wearing the same clothes he left in with no idea of what happened to him. Vasil Gorgos was 63 years old when he left his home in eastern Romania to go on a short business trip. As a cattle farmer and trader, Vasil often made such excursions, and this time, he bought his train ticket in advance. The difference here was that on this fateful day in 1991, he didn't return home. Knowing that he was due to come back the same day, his family immediately called the police and launched a search effort. But after days turned into weeks, then months, then years, with neither sight nor sign of Vasil, his loved ones were forced to assume the worst. With no leads or traces to follow, they suspected foul play, but endless questions were left unanswered. But then, on 29 August of 2021, after 3 decades after Vasil's disappearance, his family was faced with the ultimate plot twist. A car stopped in front of their home, the same one they had had for the past 30 years, and out stepped an old man looking confused.
What?
That man was none other than 93-year-old Vasil, wearing the same clothes he left all those years ago. His pocket even contained the same train ticket he was due to travel with. The car allegedly raced off before anyone had a chance to question the driver, but when asked where he'd been, a baffled Vasil replied that he had been at home, Medium reports. He subsequently underwent a thorough medical examination, but doctors concluded he was in remarkably good health. Admittedly, he had some neurological issues, but these were nothing unusual in a man of his age, as the podcast Gone But Never Forgotten noted. Indeed, the 93-year-old memory of his home, his family, and his life 30 years ago was near perfect. The issue was the past 3 decades were a black hole in his mind. He couldn't remember a thing about what had befallen him. This left loved ones with arguably even more questions than before, and of course, once the story hit the headlines, numerous theories as to his whereabouts soon flooded social media. The first theory was set out by Gone and Forgotten was that Vasil had simply decided to ditch his life and his family, possibly having taken a lover with whom he had run away with. In this case, it is possible that he, quote, wanted to make amends with his former family before he passed away. And yet, how can you make amends when you offer no explanation as to where you've been or what you've been doing? Another theory is that he may have been dumped by the person he ran away with, who, accepting that he was getting older and not wanting to take care of him, simply returned him to his family. Hey, you've been a great time, Vasil, but it's over with. There was my receipt. A third theory, which would explain how he retained his clothing, is that he had spent the past 30 years in jail, but hadn't wanted admitted it to his family. And of course,
plausible.
There would be records of that, though.
Yeah.
The jail, where, how long.
Good call on that.
Yeah, right. And of course, even more outlandish theories also abound, including that he was a spy who had his mind wiped after his service came to an end, or that he was abducted by aliens.
Yes, alien abduction. I think the world's most dangerous chat room has decided it's alien abduction.
I believe so, and somebody should probably do like an X-ray or CT of his stomach or something to make sure he doesn't have like one of those chest bursters inside him, just waiting to kind of, interrupt family dinner.
Indeed.
Folks, that has been one heck of a show. Long one here at this one.
And no Ryan Hansen tonight. He said he's at the Fish concert.
Power to him. Absolutely. And with your time in mind, we won't drag this out any longer. Folks, every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, Ben and I host the world's most dangerous chat zone in the Internet Saloon known as Topic Thunder. So, from the deck of the USS Thrapapa and the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for joining the show this evening. You guys make this what it is. Otherwise, it's just Ben and I spouting off into the ether. So, have a lovely evening. Perhaps we will see you next weekend. I'm going to try to drag this out to maybe hit the post.
We got 10 seconds. 10
with
seconds.
that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to say this.